So I'm a grandmother, and I'm a grandmother of 5. I'm a mother of 4. Ella is our firstborn grandchild. Ella was born a preemie baby. She was beautiful and she was a really placid child. Jessica realised there was something not quite right with Ella's hearing, so she embarked on having her assessed. She was diagnosed as being profoundly deaf before her 2nd birthday. My husband and I help and support Jessica as much as we can. We did find out very early on that there is not much help for parents of children that have been implanted. It seems that because a child has a hearing parent, they don't need the support or guidance. Jessica was pretty much on her own. We became a support network, her voice, her consultant team. We are a hearing family, and I had never met a deaf person or heard of sign language till Ella was diagnosed. Ella was tested through Western Hearing. They referred Ella to Australian Hearing with no warning on the results that the parents were to receive that day. Jessica tells me they walked into the office and they barely seated when they were told, "Do you know your daughter is deaf?" Hence, Ella's journey begins. To implant or not to implant. At the time, there was little information, hardly any literature. There were no support groups that we were aware of, so there was no help. Having cochlears does not cure deafness. It's an aid, it's not a cure. It does not make the child hearing. Ella is still a deaf child. Jessica still often gets asked, how deaf is Ella? Well, Ella is profoundly deaf. And at times, which is so sad, she has to prove that Ella is deaf. It's very frustrating and it's pretty hard because Ella does not come with a card that says Ella is profoundly deaf. A lot of information that we have come across has been through social media and occasionally an article. Most recently through Ella's current school. We have found that everyone's journey has been different to ours. We have found that a lot of health professionals that Ella has had to deal with didn't have any personal experience regarding a deaf child or deafness in general. They couldn't give us any personal advice or information that maybe other families had experienced that had worked for those families that could be passed on to us, that maybe it would work for Ella. They didn't relate to Ella's difficulties and the difficulties the family was facing. Important decisions had to be made. Jessica was literally on her own. Thankfully, every decision that Jessica makes on behalf of Ella, she considers the short and long-term effects that those decisions will have on her life. She doesn't make any decisions without giving it lots of considerations. We try and support her decisions and help her on her journey. After the implant, things changed dramatically. We had this difficult, frustrated child who had a meltdown over the most trivial things, especially when she was tired, overwhelmed, in noisy surroundings and unfamiliar places. Her life became a whirlwind of appointments. We had a frustrated child who received little empathy from anyone she was seeing. As long as Ella was progressing physically, other issues were irrelevant, such as her behaviour change. Personal difficulties that Ella was going through were never addressed. They did not seem a priority. It was left to Mum to deal with all the issues. It became a difficult and stressful time for Jessica and us as grandparents. This did not help family life. It caused friction in our family. The family was divided, considering her a spoiled child. Professionals were labelling her as a difficult child. This is something that Jessica had to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and it was very upsetting. They did not realise that this 2-year-old child had gone from this peaceful, silent world through the trauma of being implanted 8 hours in surgery, came out from recovery, still deaf and not being able to open her eyes. She could not recognise anybody, she could not hear anybody. She clung to Mum till the next day finally she was able to open her eyes. She has also had to deal this world full of noises that she didn't understand, and she had no recognition of speech. Routine became very important in her life, and that became Ella's coping mechanism and still is. Signing has become her primary language. Because we are a hearing family, it is believed that for us learning to sign doesn't seem important, and we were not taken seriously. Trying to organise signing for us was a difficult process, expensive, especially for Jessica. Better Start allocated some classes through her funding, and it took a lot of convincing before they were approved. Jessica is now transferring to NDIS. Jessica again had to prove all over again why we needed to learn to sign. You need to prove why you need the services you require and make sure that you have documents, reports to prove those requirements are needed. It's time consuming, it's demanding, it's frustrating, and it's a stressful process. This is where it would have been helpful to have someone with knowledge and experience to help her and guide her. We were very fortunate that we came across Nabu. He took our course very seriously regarding Auslan. The most important thing that he did for us was to come and meet the family, to talk to them about his journey through family, life and deaf culture. This is when the penny dropped for our family, understanding on what Ella has to experience every day. They realised the difficulties Ella was experiencing and started treating her with more compassion. Ella likes to do things like any normal child. Ella loves school. No, maybe that's not so normal. She wanted to learn to dance. She wanted to learn to swim. She wanted to play sport. But these experiences were a nightmare. She was either ignored or was the invisible child in the class. She didn't understand why. She just wanted to be part of the lesson and she just wanted to play. The instructors had no experience and they were not willing to learn, and interpreters were not allocated to Ella because there was no need apparently. Jessica finally found riding for disabled. Ella loves horse riding. The volunteers are amazing. They're patient, they're caring, and every child is made to feel welcomed. But this is another activity that she had to prove that Ella could benefit from. The first school that Ella attended, it didn't work for Ella. We found her doing the same activity for most of the day. We were assured by the school staff that the school could accommodate Ella. We found out that the aid that Ella had was an aid for a child with a disability. This is a problem where at times they associate her deafness with a learning difficulty. Ella does not have a learning disability. Ella is deaf. It was time to reconsider mainstream school. It wasn't working for Ella, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work for other children. One of the best decisions that Jessica made for Ella, with our support, was to move her from mainstream school to Mosman Park School of Deaf Children. Ella found herself at Mosman Park. She flourished, she was happy, she made new friends, she was part of the community, and it became easy for Ella to learn. She was so excited when she had to go on her first camp. It was so funny. She now, through Mosman Park School for Deaf Children, she participates in swimming, which she loves. She's part of the netball skills program there with the aid of interpreters. This all works because the school has a good support system, accompanied by good teachers, aides and interpreters. She has become very fluent in Auslan and she loves it. She has found her place, she is settled there. She has embraced her individuality and she is thriving. Ella being at Mosman Park School for Deaf Children has also helped the family. Jessica is not isolated. The other mums from the school, they know how important it is to have a network of friends. They are very supportive. Oh, okay. I thought I saw a flag. Okay. Jessica has also brought her own special talent to Mosman Park, like only Jessica can. She has organised family gatherings, picnics, morning teas and more. This is so the families are not so isolated and come together in a relaxed and enjoyable environment, no stress. She volunteers at the canteen on Fridays, and she has noticed that a lot of the children from the deaf school were not going to the canteen because the hearing mums didn't understand their signing. So the children were asking for an ice cream, they would get a cupcake because the ice creams were not visible. They were asking maybe for a drink and they weren't getting a drink, they were getting a cupcake because cupcakes were visible. But now that Jessica is there, they tend to go to Jessica so they get what they want. She has started canteen on a Monday only for the deaf children, so they feel welcomed at the canteen. Mosman Park School for Deaf Children has some amazing deaf mentors, but Jessica is a very good parent mentor. Our Ella can go from being calm to having a meltdown for something trivial in a matter of seconds. The mums there understand and they're not judgmental. If the same behaviour happens in the community, you get the looks, you get the snide remarks, unhelpful advice, and this does not help the situation, it makes things worse. We would like to find a support network. There seems to be a missing link for hearing families with children that have been implanted. The deaf community is an amazing community. They're a united family, they're a close-knit community. All the children are mentored and cared for by their adult peers. And it is nice to see that the older children make the younger children feel very welcome. The only way to explain it is that they're like a magnet. They're drawn to each other. It's a bond like no other. We like to take Ella to activities organised through the deaf community, and she loves to go. At times we feel like we're on the outside looking in because my signing is very limited, and most times information in Auslan is with no captions. Even though Ella is young, it's good to know about any information that will affect or benefit her in any way, and it's important for us to receive that information. Every chapter in her life is a new experience for her and a new chapter in our lives. Ella is comfortable in the deaf community. It's what she wants to be part of. We have been fortunate to come across WA Foundation for Deaf Children, but there seems to be a gap for children from the ages of 2 to 10. I've been told it's difficult to organise activities and outings for the younger children. Hopefully that will change, and it's still a work in progress. We would like to see this improve. This will help the socialisation of the younger children, which is much needed. Ella has a disability, but to us, she is a normal 7-year-old child with lots of abilities. If you come across a child with cochlears in the community, disregard, look past, take no notice of the cochlears, and embrace the child. They want to play, experience things like no other child. If you are a professional and you have contact with a child with cochlear, keep in mind you might only see that child for 30 to 45 minutes, but that child's parents has them 24/7. Take the parents' concerns very seriously. If you have any questions, ask the mother. She is an expert on her child.
Yeah.
If you have an experience that you would like to share, we would like to hear it. If you have any information that we can benefit from, we want to hear it. Ella's journey has just begun. Thank you.